Great afternoon. Great afternoon. Happy Winning Wednesday. Happy Wealthy Wednesday. How y'all feeling? This is the Legacy Lab, and I am your host, Stephanie Miller Henderson. And every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, I bring you the Legacy Lab 60 Minutes to Black Financial Freedom, where I simply share basic wealth building tools and principles that can definitely uplift and empower not only the Black community, but everyone actually all across the globe. And so I'm super excited, as I am every Wednesday. But today, in about 3 minutes, I have a young lady joining in who is going to share her wealth building journey. This month is Financial Literacy Month. So the month of April is Financial Literacy Month, and the focus this month is faith and finances. And so last week I shared extensively around what the Word of God says as it relates to building wealth. And one of my favorite scriptures would be Proverbs 13:22, which says that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And so that's the premise for this month. And we want to be able to empower just ordinary individuals with things that you can do, things that they can do in order to really start to put one foot in front of the other as it relates to generational wealth, right? I've shared and time again, and I will continue to share that we will not last forever. We all have to leave this earth. But what will you leave behind? I shared that our children, our nieces, our nephews, they may like our fashion, but they really don't want our old shoes and our old clothes. They want something tangible. And so how are we preparing to leave a legacy for our children's children, generations to come? And really it should be, I want to say, a minimum of 4 generations that you're looking at when it comes to building wealth. So we may have great afternoon. Great afternoon. Is this Pam Kelly?
Now I got everything out of the way. So
maybe that's not. All right. um, it's about that time. So I definitely thought that was my guest, Pam Kelly. But Pam Kelly will be joining us in about a minute or so. So if you are tuning in via Facebook, definitely comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Like, share. If you are tuning in via YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the Intellectual Radio channel. Also, go on over to Stephanie Miller Henderson and subscribe to my channel, where you will be able to experience some of, not just this content, but other content. I definitely love to highlight the work that my daughter does, when she's on stage. And so you'll see a lot of those videos and that content as well. I'm super excited, to definitely empower the people with some wealth building principles. And so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to kick this thing off. And so I have joining me today, at least for the next 15 minutes, a young lady by the name of Pam Kelly. And I connected with Pam through a group called Win with Black Women. And so I joined that group in November. And it's just been a really powerful experience to connect with Black women all across the globe, not just in the United States, all with one mission to definitely help uplift and empower one another, but also to push one another further as it relates to, political issues, social issues, economic issues, and so forth. And so here we are. Pam and I have definitely gone back and forth about building wealth. Pam is the bank, I will call her the bank black I don't know if she would want me to call her a guru, but I would call her the bank black sister. Okay. And, I am the make it, save it, invest it sister. And so I have Pam Kelly, the founder and owner of Perennial Preparedness, where she, over the last 5 years, has provided faith-based financial and strategic lifestyle preparedness solutions. So, Pam, do I have you on the line?
Yes, Stephanie, you do. Loud and clear.
Wonderful. Great afternoon, Pam. How are you?
I'm doing well and blessed, and it sounds like you are too.
Yes, I am. No complaints on my end. So, Pam, who is Pam? So let the people know, like, where are you from and how did you arrive to this faith-based financial preparedness journey?
I would love to share how I arrived at my faith-based journey, as you put it, which is just fine. Back in 1996, which might be dating myself because it could be before some of your viewers were here on the planet, but there was a hurricane in North Carolina, which is where I've been residing for the past 40 years. And at the time, I had two small children. And I was so devastated by that hurricane because we went without power for almost 2 weeks. And even though my children now remember it as the greatest outdoor adventure, they still got 3 meals a day. I was traumatized by it. And one of the outcomes, after all was normalized, I realized that my situation was really a result of my lack of preparedness. I pretty much lived by the seat of my pants. I had a great job, fat 401k, and a paycheck every 2 weeks. So I was lulled into the situation of thinking that, I was prepared. Nothing would happen because I would always have money in the bank. Well, I couldn't get to a ATM. I'm not even sure that ATMs were available at that time. I think they were just beginning, but they weren't available in the area in which I lived. So that was very traumatic. And out of that experience, I realized that I couldn't blame it on the system, the man, the ex-husband or anything like that. I really had to change my spending priorities. So I developed a method called 5-10-10-75, which is really traditional faith-based wisdom where you learn not to spend 100% of our dollar. And that was back in 1996. I used a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. Fast forward to 2025, I have been able to create an app for both iPhone and Google Play that can be downloaded, and it's $2.99, not $299 or $2.99 a month. Simply a one-time cost to download this app that has greatly benefited me over the years, and it has expanded really into a ministry. I call it a mission to just share with our community because that is kind of the cause at hand, especially in this new administration. The one thing that we have to do as a community, as families, as a community, is to manage our dollar so that we are able to live at 75% of our dollar, be able to save 10% at least, and give back to our faith community, which is important to me. That's 10%, and 5%, which is probably one of the most important buckets, which I call them buckets, to invest in our community. And that investment can take many forms, such as supporting your wonderful program, Stephanie, investing in one's own business, and quite importantly, churning those dollars into financial institutions that are run by folks who have our best interest at heart, who happen to be also African American. But this is applicable to any culture. Every culture that is stable, progressive, building, generationally wealthy, they invest in their kinship relationship and their kinship core of banking.
Pam, you said a lot. That was good. That was so good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you see how it really developed from just my personal financial journey to really extending it to a trajectory and a pathology that could be very much of a solution for our entire community.
I love the buckets. I am a very toolkit kind of person. Like when I go to conferences, conventions, workshops, I don't want to just sit and hear people just talk, right? I have to have a takeaway, something that I can actually apply to my life. And so the 5, 10, 10, 75 that you created is definitely something that we can apply, like a principle that we can live by. So I love that. I've heard, different financial strategies, with different numbers, but this is something that seems very simple and doable. So I love that. What would you say is the single most important thing that Black people must do today to financially prepare for tomorrow? And let me say, Pam, this question I saw your signature quote. I love quotes, by the way. I just love them. Famous, quotes from famous people. I start my morning on social media with some positive quote, but you had a quote that was something to the tune of that. And so I want you to share that with the people. Like, what's the one thing that Black people must do today in order to financially prepare for tomorrow?
Stephanie, I have two favorite quotes. I'm not sure which one. I'll share both. The one that I've lived by since 1996, live by faith for today, prepare by faith for tomorrow. So that's that speaks to personal preparedness activism. But here is the collective cultural activism that I think will propel us into a solution that everyone can buy into. And that is Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. That is the mission that I promote through actually 4 strategic goals, which are build, prepare, earn, and churn. So if you visit my website, and if I would like to mention that website at this time, weprepare.us. There's a lot of public information there, and there's a wonderful opportunity for those who become members to have access to the knowledge base of resources to help us fortify financially, strategically, tactically, spiritually, holistically. It's all there. And it's motivated by that scripture. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And we're going to require trust, that we have to learn to trust one another again. Because there's folks that mistrust, 2 separate words. They actually miss being able to trust one another. And then there's those who mistrust. They want to be able to trust. So all of that is addressed, I think, in that scripture, that we have to take the step forward, especially after January 20th with this new administration. We now see that there is a new rise in what I call Jim Crow 2.0. So we have to out-prepare that, and that's why it's always about preparedness. So that has been verbalized and strategized into what I call Century 5, 10, 10, 75, in which, again, 5, 10, 10, 75 is the driving financial infrastructure that will move this and to build. We have to trust one another, mobilize our collective courage, as our ancestors did. For instance, back in the 60s, going further back, Harriet Tubman, they were futurists. And I like to use that word also, because they believed in the future in spite of how the present appeared, and they prepared for it. That is what we have to do. So with that in mind, I issue a call to action, an invitation for folks to visit the website, weprepare.us, specifically the campaign that's now underway, and it's called the Million Brick March. So I'm not sure how much information you want me to share about that, but it's a wonderful mobilization that focuses on the next 10 years, the next decade of simply building places and spaces where we can nourish our children and flourish our family.
I love that. One of my questions was, what's your favorite scripture related to wealth? But you gave us Proverbs 27:17. Now, I would like for you to take a minute or two to talk about the Million Brick campaign. One of the things that I spoke about on the show a couple of weeks ago was something that a pastor in Chicago recently did with his church. And I'm sure there are other, silent partners and people that are involved behind the scenes, but they purchased it was a liquor store, and it was some other, I don't know, businesses. I can't even remember what else may have been in that building, but it may not even be half a block, but it might very well be half a city block. And one thing that the pastor said that they want to do is to have a free grocery store in the building, a free clinic, some office space, and some other things where, Black professionals and business owners can come and collaborate and all the things. But Pam, I shared that on that very corner, I myself actually had to run from gunshots. And so building spaces and places within our community is something that is extremely important to me. As I am on my wealth building journey, that's something that I keep in front of me as a vision, as a part of the vision. So talk a little bit about that Million Brick campaign, because it sounds like it's along the lines of, Black development.
Right. It, as you said earlier, there's nothing new under the sun. A building has been going on by every culture. We've had an interruption in our building culture, and so this is a opportunity to recover it. And if I can just paint a picture for you and your viewers and listeners, just imagine a beautiful place nestled in nature, a sacred retreat where families can come to reconnect and recharge, a space where healing gardens, learning labs, wellness workshops, and creative camps for our kids, a sanctuary where our elders are honored, our youth are empowered, and our culture is celebrated every day. That place is called Perennial Park. As a former architectural CAD drafter, many, many years ago, I was frustrated by the lack of places and spaces for our youth, who I just noticed too many on the corners. Again, the same corner you referred to, just kind of wandering aimlessly. So God blessed me with, the ability to visualize structures and put them on paper. So I built this structure, a multi-center site over 25 acres, and it's Perennial Park. So fast forward to 2025, I sat on it. I'm just glad that the Lord preserved me to this point where I'm retired and now can pursue it full time. But it is not unlike the developments that you have mentioned in your city. They're possible in my city. Here's what can make it happen, Stephanie. We have to, no construction can take place without a banking core. We look at the residences we live in, the places we work in. It's not because of some kind of racial supremacy. It's that there is a pathology of preparedness and investment and banking. So what I suggest with the Million Brick March is that we have a $1.8 trillion spending power in the African American community. I won't say economy, because an economy only comes when those dollars are being churned and recycled. So we have spending power. And what I encourage us to do if we want to build, we now know, because of the internet, where all of our banking, African American banking centers and credit unions are located. There's even a nationwide African American banking, One United Bank. So with my organization, I am asking everyone to do two things: a call to action. Consider, I'm not saying move all your eggs out of one basket and into another. Consider banking African American, because this is how we are going to build the capital to be able to, for you, me, and others who have entrepreneurial construction ideas, to be able to go to our banks, because the mainstream banks are not, more than likely, are not going to do it. And here's the paradox. We get paid every day, every week, to the tune of $1.8 trillion a year. And where do we bank it? So if you can consider that since 1877, basically we have been banking our dollar with other cultures who then churn it to their generational wealth. We must flip the script and do the same. And now that we have the internet and we know where the banks are at, it's not difficult to do that. Where the Million Brick March comes in, I'm asking folks who believe in the future, just as our ancestors did, and plan for it, and have a mustard seed of faith. Visit the Million Brick March, read the information, and support what we're doing. We are going to build Perennial Park, not just in Raleigh, North Carolina, but in various places over the next decade. And so the Million Brick March, you can get a virtual brick or a real brick. And the first year's proceeds, from the brick sponsorship will go towards redrawing this 17-year-old Perennial Park plan that I did, that the software no longer exists. It has to be done with new CAD software. That has to be done. And then to do a feasibility study where the plan can be built in total or clustered in different places. And it doesn't need to be built from the ground up. We can repurpose. There are so many buildings that can be repurposed as places and spaces for our kids to be nurtured and our families to flourish. But it all begins with having the collective courage and the trust to support our African American banks, because all the proceeds that I get are banked with mechanics and farmers who have been in business since 1907. So the future looks bright if we dare to prepare and invest in it.
That is wonderful. That is phenomenal. I absolutely love everything about the Million Brick March. I love that. And I definitely wish you nothing but the best. And will definitely make sure I connect to see how we can partner again on a more tangible level with all that you're doing. Pam, this is wonderful. And yes, we definitely have so many spaces that can be repurposed. Eyesore spaces, if you will, in our communities that have just kind of gone down. And we can definitely get our hands on that collectively,
yes.
Of course.
That's where we begin.
Yeah, right. Because look, what's the saying? If it's not broke, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if something already exists and we just need to make it better, if that and make it ours, then we could definitely do that. So listen,
Yes.
Pam, how can people connect with you? How do the people find you?
Oh, sure. Would love to share that information. They can go to millionbrickmarch.com, millionbrickmarch.com, to learn all about the campaign. Or they can go to my Facebook page, which is my profile page. I really welcome all who self-identify as the African American preparedness culture, which is rising. It's growing. So I have set up my Facebook page, facebook.com, Pamela.Kelly.961, if anyone can remember that. But I think the easiest way, and my links are on the website, I think it's the easiest to go to millionbrickmarch.com. millionbrickmarch.com. And if I may close by saying that, since January 20th, the new administration, I think what will help our young people psychologically, when they know that there is a campaign in progress that has a 100-year mission versus Project 2025, which is just 4 years, if that much.
That's good.
And that's what our kids need to see, that we are building. No more, I know there's well-meaning protests, prayer vigils, but in this country, what is going to work is our faith, our preparedness, and mobilizing our $1.8 trillion in our direction.
That's it. You heard it, folks. Thank you so much, Pam, for joining me today on the Legacy Lab. You definitely dropped some gems and some nuggets and some knowledge for the people to ponder. So thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting with you very, very soon.
Well, thanks so much, Stephanie, for the opportunity, and have a blessed and resilient week to you and all of your listeners and viewers.
You as well. Thank you. My. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're on the Legacy Lab with me, your host, Stephanie Miller Henderson. Every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. April is Financial Literacy Month, and this month's focus is faith and finances. Gotta have both. And so I'm super grateful for our guest, Pam Kelly. Again, if you would like to connect with Pam or join her in her mobilization around building and preparing as a people, you can go to the millionbrickmarch.com. And so what I want to actually close with, again, and I shared, that one thing that Pam often talks about is banking Black. And one thing that I often share is, for many of us, before we save it and invest it, we have to make it. And I love that, there is some movement right now around banking Black, right? There is, a lot of times when there is strife or, things happening, a disruption happening in the government, people shift. People start to come together. They start to unify as they should. And sometimes, God has to trouble the waters because people get comfortable. And I posted something yesterday on Facebook that said, comfort is where our dreams go to die, right? Too many times we want to sit in our comfort zone because it's easy. We don't really want to do anything. We can be slothful there. But that is not where growth happens. That is not where change happens. And that is not where anything that you have ever dreamed about, it won't happen there. And I will also add, if your dreams don't scare you a little bit, then dream bigger, because you have the capacity, the potential to do just that, because you were created by God and He doesn't make any mess. And so definitely we talk about making it, because I don't have the number, the stats of people that have bank accounts versus the people that don't, and what that all actually entails. I would love to get, someone from the banking industry on to kind of dive into that a bit. But we have to, we spend a lot. One thing that Pam lifted was that $1.8 trillion spending power, more than the gross domestic products of Spain and Mexico, right? Altogether, we spend that much. We consume that much. We overly consume. People will walk around looking like $1 million and don't have $5 in their pocket. And so that's a mindset shift that needs to happen. But also, when it comes to opportunities and ways to be able to make the money, right? Ways to be able to build the wealth. And definitely you want to make sure in this season you're banking Black. And so I'll leave with 4 pillars of financial literacy. And those 4 pillars are debt, budgeting, saving, and investing. I've brought up investing almost every episode, because the only way that you're going to build any wealth, the only way you're going to be able to enjoy that wealth on earth and leave it, something that will outlast you, is to invest. You can actually leverage the power of all of these by learning to build wealth. Um, all debt is not a bad debt, right? Um, I guess, and I don't want to get too much into the health, but they talk about good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, all that types of stuff. So, it's some good and bad in there. But we have to be educated. So, one thing I want to share is that when it comes to making it, there are many opportunities out here for you to make money and earn at a high level. You have your job, you have your career, that's your linear income. That's your one stream of income. You have to invest to create a second, third, fourth, fifth source. There are people out here that are literally getting paid so many different ways. I have, like I mentioned, I have one business partner who has like 13 businesses. And you may be thinking like, well, how does one person have that many? Because what happens is, I don't know if you remember, but you have that leveraged and residual income piece. And so what happens is at some point you want to be making money in spite of you. You want to be making money while you're not present, meaning you don't have to punch in or punch out or sign in and out to do this. And so that has to be done by figuring out a way to earn leverage and residual income. And so tonight at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, one of my business partners who is phenomenal, she's a coach, she's a mentor in our Planet Marketing business. She, for the month of April, is hosting some virtual info sessions. And I absolutely adore this young lady and I love listening to her and how she has journeyed on this, how she has gone on her wealth building journey. She often shares her story of how she was able to retire herself at 43 years old. And so my goal, when I was working and in my jobs and in my career, I always said I want to retire well before the age of 50. So there's still time. I'm still good on that goal. But this young lady retired herself at the age of 43. How did she do that? She had a great job working for the Department of Defense, making six figures with the Department of Defense. But she started her Planet Marketing business and had never, and this is a business that is based in the travel industry, right? And she had never even traveled out of the country, she shares. And so that's a hint and a clue for the people that feel like I have to know something about the industry in order to get into that industry. That's not necessarily the case. I often share that the people that created dog food, I don't know that they eat the dog food. They just saw that it was a need and they had a business idea and they executed it. And so this young lady, again, she was working for the Department of Defense, making six figures, and she was introduced to this business and then in 2 years was making six figures on less than a part-time basis. And then by that third year, she was making a quarter of a million on less than a part-time basis. So her job started to become an inconvenience, right? Because if you're spending 8 to 10 hours on your job and you're spending 2 or 3 hours a day on your business in the evening and you've made a quarter of a million, you start to think, well, what if I was able to devote 8 hours to my business? We devote a lot of time to building other people's dreams, but how much time are you willing to put into building your dream? And so in 3 years, she was able to amass a quarter of a million. Well, now here she is 9 years later, and she's going to be one of our next $1 million earners. And this is simply in an industry that we already are using, right? And so it goes back to my guest statement of Black people spending $1.8 trillion. And I often share with people, you know, I share with them, I'm not a travel agent. I don't sit at a laptop all day and book travel for people and have on a headset. No, I show people how to get a position of equity in this $11 trillion industry. And that's way more powerful than sitting at a computer. Now, there are people that are making six figures. In fact, tonight at that same time, 8:30 p.m. Central, one gentleman who made 2.3 million in travel will be on the Zoom as well. And so you want to get around people and get in spaces and rooms with people that are doing it, right? You have to get the information. Information is power. And the information is free. And again, I often share the information is free is not knowing that will cost you. Because if 5 years from now or 10 years from now, as Pam is talking about a 10-year plan, 10 years from now, I will be a multi-millionaire, maybe even more. Because why? Because I've positioned myself. I've got an alignment. I had a vision. I have a goal for myself and my family and children that I've never even met yet. I started to open my mind to the opportunities, and I got started. Too many of us are just sitting with the desire, and we haven't made a decision. We haven't put one foot in front of the other. And we're going on every day and we're spending money. We're spending money. We're spending money to the tune of $1.8 trillion. But we don't own anything to the tune of 1 point. So, we have to make it make sense. And so tonight at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time or tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, I want to invite you, if you're hearing me, definitely connect with me. Send me a message on Facebook, Stephanie Miller Henderson. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Stephanie Miller Henderson. You can send me a message, comment on the video. Send me the Zoom information. You want to get in these spaces where people are talking about ways that you can build wealth, ways that ordinary people, I'm not talking a Warren Buffett, or someone you have to invest $100,000. No, I'm talking about opportunities that are well under $500 that can position you to make 6, 7 plus figures. And so I want us to make it, save it, and then invest it. Now that you've made it and you save it, now you can start looking at, these investments that are bigger, right? Because now you have the cash flow to be able to make those $100,000 investments. But we have to start somewhere. And so I definitely want to invite people to be my guest. Again, that will be tonight at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time or tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Look, because the time is now. We see what has been happening, and it hasn't even been 100 days yet. I don't think it's been 100 days yet. It seemed like it's been 100 years with all of the things that are happening, the executive orders that have been signed. Although that's not law, it's just the disruption and the stress and, the frustration that I see people going through when I turn on the news and I see the town hall meetings that, legislators are hosting, and they're becoming violent. These are working men and women that are spewing, profane language and getting ready to fight. And I saw a man being carried out by the police. And someone was hosting a town hall. And it's to the point now where people want to just do, the phone town halls because they feel like it's safer. And so this is what's happening today in this economy, where you have Social Security cuts. And I just on my way in heard that in Indiana they're considering not allowing the people who receive SNAP benefits to be able to buy candy or sugary beverages. So the government is definitely wanting to have some control over your life, your health, your ability to work, and have some financial security for your family. And you do not want to put your family in the hands of someone else. And so Now is not the time to ask for permission to rescue your family. The time is to step out on faith and get it done because we see what is happening. And so I want to end with that. Again, I would love for you to be my guest tonight at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Zoom, where we're going to be showing people how to get paid 8 different ways in the travel industry. It is amazing. Or you can tune in tomorrow. You could get some information, ask for the Zoom information for tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are educating the masses all over the globe, literally every day. And there are times when I even host in-person workshops where we talk about the passive, the leverage, and the residual income. And I help people get their home-based business started right on the spot. Yes, where you could work from the bed, you could work from the beach, or you can work during your lunch break. It's your business, so you can work it as you see fit. But I definitely want to empower the people to make it, to save it, and to invest it. It's our time. It's our time. This is the year of grace, and I totally believe that we have to definitely act right now. So thank you all so much for tuning in to the Legacy Lab, 60 Minutes to Black Financial Freedom. I'm your host, Stephanie Miller Henderson, and I will be right back here next Wednesday with some more faith and finance talk. Take care. Be blessed.